Hey everybody, welcome to today's webinar. We're going to learn a little bit about LinkedIn, a little bit about growing our revenue, and I'm sure we'll talk about COVID because that's what we're all talking about these days. Right now we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to give about 2 more minutes for those who are getting logged in as we speak. We've got several on now and I can see a few still joining. So wait, just be patient with us for a couple minutes and we're going to get started here shortly. All right, we're going to call that good. The 3 of us are going to go ahead and fire up our cameras so that you can see our smiling faces. And then I'm going to make a couple of introductions and then we're going to get started on this thing. So before I do, and give me a moment, people, no, I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. So I've learned from past experiences that I'm not the brightest guy when it comes to starting webinar software. So if everybody on would just please jump over to the question section and let me know that you can see and hear us. I went about 8 minutes on a webinar and realized I had not started the presentation and nobody could see or hear. So I don't want to do that again. So if you wouldn't mind, help me out with that. And while you're doing that, and I'm looking for where the, oh, there we go. See what I'm saying? Okay, so my name is Justin Shelley. I am the CEO of Master Computing. Our main office is in Denton, Texas. We take care of the whole metro, some clients even outside of the metro. We focus a lot on cybersecurity. We focus on preventing it. We don't do a lot in remediation, thank God. We do when we have to, but the goal there, of course, is to prevent it. I will just make a quick plug that as everybody is, not everybody, but a lot of people are moving home, working from home. And we're introducing computers that are not necessarily under the jurisdiction of IT departments and IT support companies. Be careful with that. If anybody needs help or would like to do a free consult, I offer a free 15-minute cybersecurity consult while we're going through all this transition. So that information will be at the end of this presentation today. I'll send out an email with everybody's contact, all the panelists' contact information. So that's enough about me. Today, I am really excited to have a couple of just amazing guests, Mark and Nicole. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about Mark and Nicole. And one thing I want to say, and honestly, this is why I love doing these webinars, because there is just a ton of knowledge and experience out there. And what a great time for us to come together as a community and share some of that information and help each other through the chaos that is our world, right? So on that note, I'll start with Nicole. Nicole has 15 years with pretty well-rounded background. We've got marketing, business, and general organizational communication. You might have to tell me what exactly that means. I mean, I know what it means, but how you've played in that field. And then business restructuring, right, is what it says here. So that's a pretty well-rounded resume right there. You've worked with small businesses all the way up to Fortune 500, which there again, I'm blown away. My experience is very limited to the small and mid-sized business market. So I'm always impressed with people that get up into that, play with the big boys and girls, sorry. So that's Nicole. Frank or Mark, sorry. I botched your name from the beginning. Mark, I mean, here again, the background just kind of blows my mind. You've been a CPA, you've got an MBA, 20 years doing different things from CFO to an executive with one of the largest recruiting or staffing firms in the nation, top sales leader at one of the national top 10 CPA firms, director of business development at another staffing firm that's apparently one of the fastest growing in Dallas, I think I read on your webpage. So, I mean, crazy experience here. Like, you guys have just been around the block, and I love rubbing shoulders, elbows, whatever that saying is, with those with such a well-rounded background, because my background is very, it's IT and a little bit of aviation. So we'll get into that, I'm sure, as we go along, but really I want to take a minute and ask you guys some questions about your personal life. Nicole, I love hearing that people are twins. You have a twin. Is it a brother or sister?
It is a sister.
Okay, do you have a fun story about, I mean, twins just seem to have fun stories.
Lots of fun stories. We are very competitive in nature. So growing up, there was always a lot of fighting around who was better at what thing because we seem to have the same interests. But a fun story is her and I were both cheerleaders throughout high school and middle school. And when we got into high school, she was the base to my flyer stunt.
Really?
And if we were ever mad at each other, we would normally take it out on each other when we were practicing for whatever competition we were doing. And I'm pretty sure she dropped me on my head a couple of times just because I was being mean to her. And I broke her nose once coming down out of a stunt because I was mad at her. So the saying in high school was, you definitely don't want to piss us off because we'll get back at each other.
Wow, that's crazy. Now, on the cheerleading front, it's not like you were ever in any really big, noteworthy competitions, right?
I am a national collegiate cheerleading champion.
Awesome.
Believe it or not, it's been about 15 years since that experience. But we were part of the Big Apple Classic in New York City, and we actually beat Michigan State, and they were not happy about it.
Well, there you have it. Like I said, the experience, I love it. The business experience, the personal, the good stuff. Back to you, Mark. You've got pretty well-rounded personal life as well. Family man, you travel, you hunt, you're into sports. But what stopped me in my tracks was the riding motorcycles part. I am a motorcycle rider myself, so tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's just a few occasions where I can unwind and not think about a thing in life. And one of those is when I'm out on a motorcycle. And I've always been a Honda guy and grew up riding motorcycles. And last motorcycle I had was a Honda Magna. It's a 750, 1996. And part of the deal when we moved to Texas was I had to give up the motorcycle in order to move to Texas. So,
listen, you're not supposed to make me cry on air. Don't even say things like that.
Yeah, I know. It's I do rent a motorcycle every now and then, okay. And between hunting and riding a motorcycle, that's kind of when I can let things down and just relax and enjoy life. So
I hear you. My first motorcycle came around when I was 5 years old. I was so short we had to take the seat off of it so that I could touch the ground. And I've been on them, mostly ever since then. I've had some dry spells. I grew up on Japanese bikes, Hondas, Suzuki, Kawasaki. I mean, all of them. Did I say Yamaha? All of them. I had all of them. And right now I did convert over to Harley. That was just mostly because I wanted to experience the whole thing. So anyway, let's, enough about I talk about motorcycles all day. So let's go ahead and Nicole, I'm going to switch presentation over to you so you can launch a slideshow. You've seen enough of our faces. We're going to kill our camera so you can focus on what matters most today. If I can figure out how to do this and talk, which is a challenge. All right, Nicole, you should be live.
I am live.
There we go.
Okay, let's just make sure we got everything going here. And let me know if the slides are fully in your view right now.
I'm seeing it. Again, I'll defer to the audience. If you guys wouldn't mind just punching into the question section again, that you can see the presentation. And real quick, please ask questions if they come up throughout our show today. I'll interrupt if you guys would like to ask a question. So other than that, I'm just going to kind of be behind the scenes.
Awesome. And I do actually have a question for you and Mark when we get to the end of this, prompted by your both love of motorcycles, but I figured I'd keep that to the end. So
Okay. Deal.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for being with us on your lunch hour or wherever you're at based off of your time zone. We are very excited to dive into how to utilize LinkedIn, especially given the environment that's going on and the COVID-19 crisis. A lot of things probably have happened in the last month where your networking just hasn't been able to be the same, or your trade shows have gotten canceled. Or maybe you just want here because you want to learn more about LinkedIn and how it could benefit you either as a business owner, a salesperson, or someone who just wants to expand their network. RevGrow has been around, and I'm just going to do this. RevGrow's been around for about 4 years now. Mark McIntosh, who you've seen before, started this back in 2016. I came on about 3 years ago. But really, at the end of the day, what we do for business owners is we help them utilize LinkedIn to grow their network, to develop relationships, and at the end of the day, grow their revenue based off of those relationships that we're helping them nurture. And really, why LinkedIn? Again, like I said, this social distancing has really kind of changed up the entire environment, no matter what industry you're in, on how to go about filling your pipeline, how you go about building those relationships with your targeted prospects, and on top of that, just how to have connections with people. And LinkedIn is really a great place for business-to-business owners, just because that's where they're at. According to some stats that we're going to go over, it's just 70% of sales professionals are more active on LinkedIn for business purposes than compared to Facebook and Twitter. And this is just an important fact because if 70% are on there and active, that means 70% of those people are reachable, which is a really good number because even that 30% are going to start becoming more active as we figure out what this new normal of networking potentially looks like. On top of that, when it comes to your buyers, 67% of them have already made their decision before they contact a sales rep. So if they're in your network and they're seeing the type of things that you are talking about and offering and the activity that you're providing on LinkedIn, most of the time, without you even knowing it, you're building that relationship with them and they're doing their research behind the scenes before they even contact you. So again, it's really important to not only have a LinkedIn profile, but to be active and being engaging so that your audience sees who you are, what you do, and what value you bring before they even reach out. On top of that, 80% of consumers are purchasing products based on someone they know. So with that being said, not only is it good to know these people, but it's really good to interact with them. And that's where LinkedIn comes in. Because when you are growing your network and you're making these new connections, everything pops up in their feed. So any content that you want to share, any stats that you want to share, any articles that you want to share, everything gets put into their feed. So they start seeing you. So even though you may not know them in real life, they know you through LinkedIn. And that's really important because the more people you have in your network, especially the more targeted prospects, the easier it is to convert them into a sales meeting potentially, and then from there nurture them through to a close. Mark, do you have anything that you wanted to add to this?
No, that was great, Nicole. Thank you.
You're welcome. Perfect. So we're going to dive into these steps. as we get started, RevGrow is a LinkedIn lead generation company. We are all about building relationships, but to show you kind of the statistics behind why we utilize LinkedIn, 80% of social media B2B leads come from LinkedIn. And that's a very important statistic, because even though Facebook and Twitter and Google are the places that you go to maybe consume what's going on in your personal life, LinkedIn is really the professional platform that's allowing people to grow their business in ways that Facebook and Twitter just don't allow. So what are these 7 steps to grow your revenue with LinkedIn? Well, the first one is to actually look at your profile. The first thing you want to do is figure out what's going on with your profile. A lot of the times people think that putting in your experience and putting in all of the accolades of what you've done in your career is great and good enough. But when it comes to really taking this to a professional level and getting real about how you want to grow your business on LinkedIn, you kind of have to reverse that. If your profile looks more like a resume, you really want to figure out how to switch that to a resource for your customers. This means that you are actually providing value up front. You're showing these ideal targets that you understand what those pain points are, and you're actually talking about interests and insights that pique what they actually are looking for, to dive deeper into your profile and learn more. That makes it easier for them to say, yes, this is someone I want to connect to, because they potentially solve a problem that I have with the solution that they're offering. We always say that you want to leave a favorable impression, just because having a favorable impression means that that first kind of instinct when people are coming to your profile, they're not necessarily saying, maybe not. They're immediately engaged in what's going on, and they want to learn more. And that kind of goes back to that statistic of 67% of buyers are already making a decision before they come to a sales rep. So if you're taking your LinkedIn profile and you're making it a resource for them, immediately there's going to be that instant connection, and they're going to want to figure out if you are the right person to talk to, or even the right person to connect with. And kind of that's where all of the things in your profile are going to show. Like I said before, value is of utmost importance, and that's what makes it customer centric. And really, they want to know why it matters to them, not necessarily why it matters to you. So it's kind of asking yourself the questions of, what are my customers wanting out of my business, and what are my customers asked before that I can really provide them awesome information that they say, yep, I really want to connect with this person. And
well, I have a comment on that, Nicole.
Yep.
Within the LinkedIn profile, there's so much real estate that can be leveraged for case studies, videos, blogs, recommendations, and to position your brand and your business value proposition in a client-facing, customer-centric manner, so it reads more like a website than a resume, is a great way to speak to your audience's pain in a way that just really resonates with them. And by reading the summary and looking at the content that's attached to your profile, it's a great way to build that know, like, and trust factor. And we always try and write the profile summary in a manner where when your prospects read it, they'll say, finally somebody gets it and understands my pain. So your LinkedIn profile is a great place to articulate that value proposition.
Absolutely. And we wanted to provide some examples for you to kind of see what we're talking about. So what I did here is I took some screenshots of clients of ours who have given us permission. And basically what you're seeing right now is the blink test of the LinkedIn profile. If you were to blink, what would you actually get from these? And that's kind of where the top of your LinkedIn profile shows. And I just want to show really quick, because I can do this whole linking thing. What we're talking about when we say there's so much real estate. So first and foremost, you want a background that not only is eye-catching, but gives some information on what your business potentially is. So Brianna here, she is in the staffing and recruiting industry. So what she does is she prepares for your future. She helps you figure out what that next step is when it comes to the career that you want. And when it comes to the headline, it's not just saying that she is the CEO of Cultured Connections. She's explaining that she's connecting what matters most, people. So it's tying in your brand into your LinkedIn profile as opposed to kind of just stating who you are and what you do. On top of that, you have also down here, your About section. This sometimes can get glossed over, but this is really where the meat and potatoes is of how you can turn your resume, your LinkedIn profile from a resume to a resource, because you get a lot of characters with this. You get up to, I think, 1,500 characters on LinkedIn to tell your story and paint the picture for your target audience of why you do what you do, how you help them solve those potential problems, and what they get out of it. So it's taking this, like I said, and painting the picture and kind of weaving that story in 1,500 words of what you do, why you can help, and why you're the expert in this. On top of that, below here, we normally will put case studies, and I can go into Mark's profile at the end of this and show you, but this bottom part is a really great way to link to your website, link to the blog posts and articles that you've written, and also link to testimonials to show them right off the bat that you are the authority in this industry, and this is why. And then again, making sure that your experience section links to your company page is super important. And on top of that, making sure that everything ties back to being customer centric as opposed to being you centric. That's really, if all you get from this, step one is that you go from being you centric to customer centric. I have done my job. Okay, hold on one second. There we go. Back to this. So this again is step one, which is taking your LinkedIn profile and turning it from a resume into a resource. The second step in growing your revenue with LinkedIn is to develop a content strategy. This is something that is really more in depth than just finding an article that you like and sharing it on your profile. This is something that's going to take thought. It's going to take time to see results, but at the end of the day, it establishes you as the authority in LinkedIn, in the industry and space that you're in, and shows your targeted prospects that not only do you care about what their potential problems are, but you're also learning the types of content that they want to engage with, as opposed to just putting out content that you may enjoy. So these are types of things that lead to your solution, not with your solution. So whether it's an industry publication that's speaking about the pain points that your customers have, whether it's an article that you've written that really dives deep into why you're the expert and how you're the expert, things like that are good to share. Again, original and curated content work in tandem. These are things like one day posting something from your website and the next day posting from that publication. It's getting into a rhythm and a routine as to what you're posting, how you're posting, and the frequency of it to show everyone that you are that authority and it's not just random things they're seeing every now and then. However, we don't necessarily want to clog everyone's feed with things that are not the most quality content. So we always say that we want to do quality over quantity. So even if you're only posting 2 or 3 times a week, those 2 or 3 times will have the quality content that your customers are looking for, and they get used to seeing you in their feed. So if you post every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, they're going to know every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you're going to come in with really great content that they're going to want to actually use and see, and potentially even engage with, which is the most important part of your content, is making sure that people are engaging with it. If you're not seeing that, I would say shake it up and see if there's other things that get more engagement. Even just a simple text post sometimes can kind of get people riled up and kind of in your comments and saying, oh, this was great, thanks for sharing this. The things that we know work best though are blog posts, ebooks, checklists, video for sure, infographics and guides, because these are things that are going to have an immediate impact on what your potential target is looking for, as opposed to just putting out quotes or things like that. Having those mixed in, though, do help in kind of breaking it up and showing them that you are from all sides of this, having the type of content that they're wanting. Things that you can utilize with a content strategy to help you remember to post is getting some type of social media poster, whether that's a Hootsuite or a Buffer, or any other types of accounts that let you post directly to the actual social media platform. You can take 10 minutes in the beginning of your week, schedule out a couple of posts, and not necessarily have to worry about it. And that is the absolute best way to start developing a content strategy, because it's, again, getting you into that rhythm and routine that we talked about.
Yeah, I have something to add. One of our colleagues, Judy, she always uses the Thanksgiving turkey as an example. You know, when you make a Thanksgiving turkey, you can slice and dice and reuse that turkey in a variety of ways. And the same is true with content. You know, a lot of our clients will help them slice and dice their content, you know, may create a blog out of it, take the same content, make a video or a checklist, and, you know, maybe expand upon one or two items in a blog post and make that into a longer video or an infographic. So being able to repurpose content is a great strategy.
Mm-hmm. And also pulling out pieces that may be relevant at the time, because blog posts and videos and infographics are great, but pulling out specific things that may be very timely also can get really good interaction. And like Mark said, you can reuse it, and especially over the course of 90 days, kind of getting creative in how you can reuse your content can really be the fun part of developing a content strategy.
Yeah, and another best practice we found is to identify hashtags that you can link to your content, because what that does is it serves as an inbound lead strategy, an inbound marketing strategy. So when folks go out and they search on certain keywords or hashtags, the more credibility and the more content that you build up on the LinkedIn platform, the higher you'll be in search results. So it really serves as an SEO mechanism in a lot of ways. So we highly recommend coming up with a few hashtags that are searchable, and again, will help bring those high value prospects to you.
Well, and also to add to the hashtag aspect of that, you also want to make sure anytime you use hashtags, you always use a branded one. Like in our slide deck, what we have down here, hashtag RevGrow, that's something that also builds authority, because what you're doing is you're stating that you are the expert in this. And it's also something where if prospects are starting to see your content more and they want to find out what else you've posted, being able to search the hashtag as opposed to scrolling through your profile helps show them what you've posted very quickly without them having to take too much time. Because again, time is always something that everyone wants more of. So making it easier for your prospects to find things and reducing the time they have to do the searching can also have an impact on them coming to you at the end of the day and saying, I think we need to have a conversation about X, Y, and Z. So these are just some types of content that I wanted to pull and show you. This one up here was a trade show article that we wrote for one of our clients. Obviously, our trade show is still relevant. In this day and age, that's probably a debatable question. They definitely are, but with everything going on, it's one of those things that we don't know what the outcome is. This is an article that we wrote for another one of our clients, and just showing you the different types of format, from pictures to graphics to just short form content, and kind of get your creative juices flowing on what you can do and how you're able to provide content for your audience that's going to deliver the results that you want. So the third step in all of this, after you've made your profile go from a resume to a resource and you started to develop your content strategy, you want to start building who your prospects are and what type of targeted criteria they fit into. So these are the types of things when you're on LinkedIn that you want to start building your ideal target prospect. What industries do they serve? What titles may they actually use? How long have they potentially been at their position? What geography are you looking to connect into? All of these types of things and a lot more, because LinkedIn gives you a whole bunch of things that you're able to search for, help you start figuring out who's going to fit in that targeted criteria. And this is important because when you're developing your targeted criteria, this will narrow down the amount of people that you want to start potentially connecting with, and also who in your network you may already be connected to. Because everyone who's on here, I guarantee you, has people in your network right now that are gold nuggets that you may have never even realized to meet your targeted criteria, that you can start putting into this whole process to reach out to and see if there is a potential match in doing business together. We call this re-engaging with targeted existing connections, but filling out who your prospects are and figuring out what criteria they meet, especially matching it to what LinkedIn allows you to filter, really helps in making this process super easy, because you're not having to dig through the 600 million people on LinkedIn. And we always say that it's not just a one and done type situation. You always want to be going in and tweaking who your targeted criteria is, not just based on the results, but if you're adding a new industry, if you're adding a new geography, these are things to think about for the long term, because each and every single month you want to make sure that you're adding and identifying those new prospects to your LinkedIn connections, because that kind of helps the system become something that's a rhythm and a routine, and it just opens up so many people in your network that you may not even realize that last month you weren't connected to this person, but because you are, now you have access to their network, and who do they have in their in their connections that could potentially be gold mines for you as well. So really, as you're figuring out who these prospects are and what targets they need to be into, it allows you to see who on LinkedIn you need to be connected to, who you're already connected with, and why it matters, because there's going to be different types of things you're going to do in the next couple of steps to start nurturing them and warming them up to eventually potentially getting them on a phone call.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they kind of struggle with determining who their customer avatar is, or their most ideal target prospect. And a good way to figure that out is just look at your existing customer base and what do they have in common. Are there certain industries that you work better with, certain geographies, certain size of companies? And Sales Navigator, which is an upgraded version of LinkedIn, allows you to filter and search on all these key filters, such as location, size, title, industry, and things like that. So we definitely recommend that if you want to really get serious about LinkedIn and leveraging it to its fullest capabilities, that it's well worth the $80 a month, which is what LinkedIn charges currently for the upgraded premium version, which they call Sales Navigator. Mm-hmm. And I think if you pay for the whole year instead of month to month, they'll give you an extra month or two free. And I also think they, last I checked, they'll give you a month or two free just to try it out before you commit. So again, that's called Sales Navigator, and it has a lot of these expanded features that really allows you to build that prospect profile and narrow in to make sure that you're connecting with and engaging with your most ideal target prospects.
Well, and I think the one aspect of Sales Navigator that makes it well worth the investment is the ability to save those searches. Because if you were just using LinkedIn as it is, every single time you wanted to go search, you'd have to put in the criteria that they allow, which really only are if they're a second degree connection, the location, the industry, and potentially who they're already connected to on LinkedIn. So not only does Sales Navigator give you the ability to expand on those different types of filters, but it gives you the ability to save them, so you can go in, click on that save search and immediately be presented with new potential prospects that you can dig through and see if it makes sense to connect with them. So kind of alluding to that, but once you've changed over your resume, you've figured out your content strategy, and now you know exactly who your ideal targets are, you want to start building your database. So this is kind of like what Mark was talking about. If you haven't upgraded to Sales Navigator, we highly recommend it. But even if you don't, it's going into LinkedIn and finding those filters, putting in the information that's needed, seeing who's out there, and clicking and looking on their profiles instead of just blindly connecting to make sure, one, the information's correct, two, they truly match who your ideal target is, and three, if there's any commonalities, how to personalize those invitations that you're going to be sending. You don't necessarily have to start connecting with hundreds upon hundreds of people. You can start with 15 a day, but sending those personalized invites that give them a reason to connect with you instead of just the LinkedIn canned response of, I see your potential connection, let's do it, really helps not only with the conversion, but it shows that you're an actual human. And we say this because the more you can personalize your invites, especially if you only want to do 15 a day, it doesn't take that much time. It really helps in showing them that you're actually looking at their profile, you're engaged in what they're doing, and it makes them more willing to say, actually, this person went and read this article, or this person went and saw that I did this. Absolutely, let me connect with them because they've already taken the time to get to know me. So you're going to start building that database. You can kind of figure out the number that you want to do each day. Don't go above 150 though, or LinkedIn's gonna kind of slap your hand because they do have a limit. But start figuring out what that process is gonna look like for you to build it. You also wanna have a plan and follow through with it, kind of like I said. So if you wanna do Monday through Friday, 15 a day, or if you wanna pick a day of the week and do 50, just figure out what that process is gonna look like for you. That's based off of how your ideal days are set up. And it really helps in making sure that you get it done. Even just simply blocking out time on your calendar that says LinkedIn connection time really is going to help in making sure that you follow through with that plan, that you hold yourself accountable to it, and then you're going to reap the benefits of it by people accepting your connection request, growing your network, and figuring out if any of those ideal prospects turn into ideal leads that potentially turn into ideal clients.
Nicole, can I jump in for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
I first want to rant, and then I have a question for you. Well, first of all, I was taught by a LinkedIn sales training system a couple years back to go out and connect with people with and I'm focusing on this, give them a reason to connect. And the reason that I was taught was something to the effect of, hey, it never hurts to build your connections, or it never hurts to connect with somebody on LinkedIn or something like that. And my rant is that I probably get, I don't know, 20 or 30 of those a month with that reason to connect. And it drives me crazy because that's not a reason to connect. So what is a good reason to connect with somebody?
So great, love that, because honestly what you're saying comes off as sleazy and salesy, and immediately it's going to kind of put up your guard to, I don't want to connect with this person.
Well, what's funny about it is they're trying so hard to not come off as sleazy and salesy that's exactly the message they send.
That they do, and it's canned, and you know that it probably is not someone they're either sending out a bunch because they think that you're the ideal target. The way to personalize these is to go through each person's profile, and it is work, but it's also fun because you're getting to know these people and see if there's any commonalities. Did you guys go to the same school? Is there some form of work that you guys did that creates that connection? Do you know someone that they're connected to that maybe could help solidify that bond? So those things that you're looking for are really the things that, one, there's a commonality there, two, can help in maybe the referral process, or three, is interesting in what they've already done. So looking at the articles they've posted, the content that they've done, and saying, hey, listen, I saw you posted this article about X, Y, and Z. I read it. It's really interesting. I'm really excited to potentially see you pop up more in my feed. Let's connect. I'd really love for you to be a part of my network. That way, one, it doesn't come across as salesy. Two, you're giving them a reason that you've already taken an interest in them, so let them take an interest in you. And it personalizes it so they don't feel as if you're just coming at them with the same thing that every single other person is potentially trying to do.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask a question that you're probably going to answer later, and if that's fine, then defer it. But once you've connected with somebody, what would be a good next step?
I'm glad you asked that. Next step is setting up
Okay.
your messaging machine. So step 5 in this whole really simple process, and I hope it's simple, but you've already done your profile, you've done your content strategy, you've figured out who your ideal targets are, you've started building your database. Now you've got to figure out how to set up your messaging machine. So this is where, when I said before, we're going to get into re-engaging your current connections and also messaging the new connections that come in, because each are going to have things that are different. Your existing connections are going to get messages that are more warmer, that just state we've been connected for a while, we've never actually probably spoke, but I either have this article for you, or I think that this would be interesting based off of what your experience is, kind of showing them that you've taken an interest in them, even if you haven't talked to them before. New connections are going to get messages along the lines of, thanks so much for connecting. Here's an article that I want to share, or here's something that I think would be of value to you based off of X, Y, and Z. So there's going to be 2 sets of messages, but they're going to really show you where people are going to be engaging in, because you're going to track it all. When it comes to setting up your messaging machine, you do want to be respectful. You always want to add value. You never want to pitch. These are things that may be not difficult to hear, but sometimes it's in our nature to just give all of the information and say, hey, listen, I really want to talk with you, but we want to develop the relationship, not necessarily force the relationship on them. We always say allow 7 to 10 days between the messages, because it gives people enough time to read them. Not everyone may be as active on LinkedIn as we are, where we're checking our inboxes a couple times a day. If they're only checking it once or twice a week, it allows them to see it and make the decision on if they want to respond. So that's very important to remember. And the way that we set up our messaging, we wanted to kind of give a sample playbook, because the way that it works is each and every single week you want to be exporting your new connections so that you can track them and figure out where they're at in the messaging sequence. So we always say it's good to develop about 5 messages that over the course of 10 weeks you're going to be sending them, because you want to remember, you want to delay it as much as possible. But what happens is as you're building your database, as you're making these new connections, each set will start getting a message at a different stage. So at the end of 3 months, every single person has had some sort of message from you that's bringing value, that's being respectful, that's not pitching, and shows them that you are the authority in your field. And it has a cascading effect, because you're not necessarily having any type of stalled pipeline because of that. So even though you do have work up front, at the end of this, every single person will have gotten all of these messages. You're probably going to have multiple conversations that you're having with them that eventually lead to either getting on the phone, having an in-person meeting, or doing something virtual, that then moves forward what potentially could happen in that business relationship and eventually closes a deal. So this is kind of the messaging playbook that we normally show people, because it does have a pronounced effect, just because people don't realize just how simple it could be, developing a sequence and just kind of making sure you're consistent in getting it out and holding yourself accountable. This goes back to making sure that you are putting time on your calendar for this type of activity as well. It could be once a week, it could be twice a week, depending on how many new connections you're getting, but always make sure that you're doing some sort of action with these types of messages. And if I go back here, these are the types of messages that you potentially could send. We normally do a 5-message sequence. You can do 6 or 7. A lot of the time it just starts with inviting them to connect, thanking them for connecting, kind of asking if they're interested in things, so you're doing the permission-based aspect, sending them value, sending a follow-up question, thanking them for anything that you've sent them or any type of engagement that you got, and providing more value, and sometimes throwing in a seasonal industry message. So for instance, if you're talking to CPAs today or whatnot, it could be sending them a message of, wow, aren't you, well, now tax season actually has been deferred, but something along those lines where you're sending something that's industry specific, seasonal, and that's pertinent to them. So this is kind of the flow of the messages that we normally send. And we wanted to also show you what happens sometimes. So Mark has allowed me to take screenshots from his account just to show you guys some examples. But from here, you can see that Mark looked at Scott's profile. He noticed that they had some mutual connections. He invited Scott to visit his profile, and if it makes sense, to accept his invitation. Scott accepted. He actually kind of took over the messaging at that point and said, thanks for reaching out. He gave them the best way to connect. And he basically said that if he would like a phone meeting, that he can go to this page, and he looks forward to seeing what happens through LinkedIn. From there, Mark sent the thanks for accepting his connection. He looks forward to the updates in his feed, and if he can introduce him to anyone in his network, that's great. Happy Thanksgiving. Mark then sent Scott a blog, asked Scott if he was interested in a blog post that we'd shared about proven practices to nurture LinkedIn connections. If you're interested, I'll send you the link. Just reply with a yes, and I'll get it to you. So Scott said yes. After that, we sent him the link to the article, and then Scott did his research. He looked at our site. He actually said that we had great content and he liked what our website was about. He enjoyed the blog post. He signed up for the newsletter. Mark said, thanks for the compliment. And then Mark sent Scott the actual call to action. Now, if you look, this was over the course of about a month. So from November 21st all the way to December 17th, this is how long the interaction was. Once Mark sent this call to action about just having a quick 5-minute introductory call, Scott then did book on Mark's calendar, and they did have a phone call. So this really does work if you give it time and really kind of nurture the relationships that you want to have with your prospects. Mark, do you remember the conversation with Scott at all?
What's that, Nicole? I'm sorry.
Do you remember the conversation with Scott at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had a real nice conversation and continue to stay in touch. You know, we don't have anything that we can partner on or work together at this moment, but we continue to stay in touch. And a couple points I want to mention is that you don't want to be that person, obviously, that either, I don't know what's worse, to connect and forget or connect and pitch. So definitely we don't want to be the person that either connects and forgets or connects and pitches right away. And that's what a lot of the competition is out there doing. And it just really turns everyone off. And, you know, executives, one thing they hate is to be pitched to. So just to reiterate, I mean, you know, sending value add messages and providing value, you know, it may take, you know, 7 to 10 touches before you get somebody's attention or get them to agree to a phone call. And it's just all about building relationships, building that know, like, and trust, and demonstrating and proving to that individual that you're in it for the right reasons and not just there to start pitching right away. So, you know, I just wanted to bring that up as, you know, just focus on providing value and helping them. And, you know, instead of asking for a presentation or ask them if they'd be open to a sales pitch, I always like to ask, you know, let's just get on the phone and have a conversation and see how we can benefit by being connected. You know, maybe there's something directly or indirectly now or in the future that I might be able to help you with. And just asking somebody for that 5 to 10 minute call, especially these days, we've seen great responses. And, you know, people obviously have more time on their hands now. And if your profile's positioned properly and through messaging and through engagement, you've demonstrated that you're not the sleazy salesperson and that you're really genuinely interested in adding value and being a valued connection to them, it really goes a long way. And the way you do that is through, it starts with your profile and how you position you and your brand in that customer-centric manner, how you leverage content to add value and share insights and give tips, and then just how you word the messaging, again, in a very respectful, non-salesy manner. It really goes a long way. And what all this does is it leads to better conversions and phone calls that you wouldn't have got otherwise if you just connect and start pitching right away. So again, it's all built on adding value and building up that know, like, and trust factor.
You almost want to prove them wrong, that you're not the same people that may be bombarding them on LinkedIn each and every day. Awesome. So we've gone through, like Mark said, the profile, the content strategy, who your targets are, how to start building them out on LinkedIn, what types of messages to send that convert. Oop, there we go. Step 6 is, how do we actually figure out what are all these activities actually doing for me? So you want to develop a system where you can manage it all. You can use your CRM tool that maybe you have already utilized. We at RevGrow use Google Sheets just because it's really helpful in having everyone access it and see what's going on 24/7. Calendars are really simple ways to also help management to make sure you're blocking out that time to make sure you're getting it done. Project management systems too are really good. If you're using Asana or anything that alerts you to what tasks need to be done, it can be really a rinse and repeatable thing where you know exactly what you need to do each and every single week. And the importance to developing this system is to make sure that you're tracking the activity, the results that they've gotten, and what types of conversions are there. So not just how many messages did you send and how many phone calls did you have or how many presentations or whatnot. Because of that, you want to track everything because it all kind of intertwines together. So how many connections did you send? How many people accepted those connections? How many messages did you send? And out of those messages, where do they break down in that sequence? Because out of those, you can start seeing which messages convert better, which ones are having more engagement, and it allows you to tweak the process. Because once you set up the system, you can kind of let it ride, but you also want to make sure that you're A/B testing things to make sure that everything's working like a very well-oiled machine. And again, this goes back to just making sure that it's part of your daily rhythm and routine, because it can be repeatable and it's definitely scalable based off of the amount of time that you have and where you want your business to go. This also helps you be able to kind of copy paste it as you grow your team. So as you bring in salespeople, as you bring in marketers, things like that, this allows them to see what you've been doing and how they can help you and what their goals potentially can be in this entire process to make sure that your pipeline is running like a very well-oiled machine. And the last thing out of all of this, which is probably a little bit more of the most important, is to nurture these leads and convert them to clients. So we've talked about how to actually do this type of system, but at the end of the day, how do you actually grow your revenue? And it all comes down to nurturing these leads and converting them to clients. The messaging sequence that we have obviously is the starting point for building that relationship, but most people will not have an immediate need. 97% of people will not have an immediate need for your service. And what you want to make sure is you stand above the people that actually don't follow up, because 90% of reps give up after about 5 touch points. Our messaging sequence is about 6. So even on top of that, in total, it probably is going to be about 11 or 12 touch points in order for people to show that they're interested and to make that conversion. And we always like to say the money's in the follow-up. The benefits of it are because it still adds value. You're continuing to build that relationship and show them that when they are ready, you are the person to call, and you remain top of mind. These 3 things alone can have a significant impact on these prospects, knowing that they can trust the services that you offer, that you truly do solve the problem they potentially have, and when they're ready, that they know they can call you and that they'll immediately be a client for you.
That's great, Nicole. I wanted to add a couple things to that. This the fact that only 3%, and that's probably a high number, will have an immediate need or desire to buy your service. So that tells us that what happens after the initial call until the need arises can make all the difference. And so many people out there, they treat it, the follow-up and the nurturing, as kind of a one-size-fits-all approach, where they might send a monthly newsletter or do the dreaded checking in or touching base email. But there's no real system. It's not customized. It's our approach, and what we recommend is score the leads, score the conversations you have, and maybe identify your top 10 or your top 20 or top 50 prospects and develop a nurturing program that's customized to them, that has a number of different value add touch points each and every month that, again, are customized to them based on their needs, based on their interest, based on their pain points. And we have over 50 different value add touch points that we deploy for our clients, and we'd be happy to share some of those with you. Just shoot us an email or schedule a call after this. But what you do after the call, throughout the sales cycle or the buyer journey, is really what can set you apart from the competition. As Nicole mentioned previously, 90% of the folks give up after 5 touch points. And, just because somebody doesn't respond to you right away, or they're not ready to buy right away, does not mean, obviously, that they won't be a good long-term client down the road. So again, the money's in the follow-up, and we are big believers in developing a customized lead nurturing strategy that converts those A and B prospects into clients over the next, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 9 months. For some of our clients, the sales cycle might be 24 to 36 months. So again, it's all about adding value and standing out from the competition in all of these subsequent touch points throughout the buyer journey.
Absolutely. It's probably one of the, like you said, the most important things that you can do to really help grow your revenue by utilizing LinkedIn, and even after what LinkedIn can do for you to make sure that you really are providing that value day in and day out, so you have people coming to you as opposed to having to do the outreach. So these are the 7 steps and kind of how the activities grow to impact your business. Our little flow chart from LinkedIn profile all the way to nurturing leads to a close. And that really kind of concludes what we wanted to talk with you guys about today. This simple but effective process can really have an impact on how you are doing things on LinkedIn to grow your revenue, to grow your reputation, to grow your authority, to build your pipeline, and eventually to close more deals that grow your revenue. So other than that, I really hope you guys enjoyed the content that we were able to provide you all today, and I will turn it back to Justin, and we will see if there's any questions.
All right, do we get to show our pretty faces for this part?
Sure.
So we're so close to the top of the hour that in respect for everybody's time, I'm just going to ask one question that we can wrap with. One of the things that is what I see because I work with some other businesses as well as just marketing in general, and where I see people really fall apart when they go after any type of a growth strategy is not having proper expectations in the beginning, and then maybe not tracking the results, maybe they are, but either way, they went in with some expectation, and when that doesn't happen, then they consider it a failure. So what would you say would be a proper expectation with going after the strategy? Now, maybe that's, if you invest X number of hours a week, you could expect this result, or it's a number of contacts. So what would you tell people would be a proper expectation?
So I would say from that aspect, there's like two answers, and I'll try and answer them as quickly as possible. But one, it's starting from the end goal. So the end goal potentially could be getting more connections or sending out a certain number of messages. But if you start with the end goal of where you want to be in like 3 months, it helps you break it down to see what you need to start doing today, numbers wise, to get you there. So let's say you want to have 500 new connections in 3 months. So if you backtrack that to what you need to do today, you can divide that by how much time you want to dedicate and how many people you have to be reaching out to, because normally there's a 50% conversion rate, to figure out, is it 10 connections you need to make each day? Is it 50 connections you need to make each week? Because it's going to be very personal to each person. But on top of that, it's also knowing what your accountability is like to yourself. Are you someone who holds yourself accountable, or do you need someone to kind of push you? And two, where is your overwhelm threshold? Does sending 15 connection requests each day give you anxiety? If it does, bump it down to 5. It's not necessarily a competition to say, if I don't do 15, I'm not good enough. It's, you're good enough if you do what you say you want to do. So even if it's just 5 new connections a day or 5 messages a day, those expectations help to set you up to develop that rhythm and routine that we talked about. So it's aligned to what you personally want to do, as opposed to someone saying you have to do these things.
I like that. Okay. So last thing, we're overtime actually a little bit. So really quickly, everybody that has joined this call, even those that registered and didn't attend today, you're all going to get an email that will have Mark and Nicole's contact information in it. It'll have my contact information in it. And all of us here are offering mine's 15 minutes. I don't really stick to that, but a free consultation to at least, and I'm not going to speak for Mark and Nicole. For us, we want to make sure people are protected right now from a cybersecurity standpoint. It's free advice. We just let you know if you need to worry or not. So it's a pretty simple thing. No charge, no strings attached. Mark, what do you offer in your free consultation?
Yeah, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. And if somebody has an interest, they can go to my calendar and book a time, which is scheduleacallwithmark.com. Scheduleacallwithmark.com, or just shoot me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll get you that information, Justin. So,
perfect. All right,
yeah.
excellent.
Love
and again,
to help.
I'll blast an email out to everybody that registered for this presentation, so you'll have that information. You don't have to try to remember it. Thank you, Mark and Nicole. This was fantastic information. I was taking notes, trying to type quietly so it wasn't a distraction. Ton of value here, and I'm going to get started, because if you were to look at my profile, this would be the example of what not to do. So thank you again. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the call. I will see everybody next time.
Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you.